Yo, dudes, the Empire's pretty chill. Maybe you could, join it or something.
Hey everyone, Lucimus Prime here, so it's time for the next episode of my series of Old is Better Than New. And in today's video, I thought this time I'd cover a franchise which is actually made by Disney and is also a live-action franchise based on a theme park attraction of the same name at Walt Disney theme parks. And I've also been on this ride too when I went, of course, to Disney World in Florida. And this is a franchise which, in my opinion, started off really well as a trilogy, but horribly went downhill afterwards in terms of its films. And this franchise, what I personally think Old is Better Than New, is none other than Pirates of the Caribbean. So, now, if you guys were to ask me what does this franchise mean to me, well, when I, of course, went to Florida in 2013, I did go on the ride, as I just mentioned, and I thought it was absolutely amazing. And after that, I did have an interest in wanting to watch the films, but unfortunately, I was pretty busy in the following years, of course, until, of course, in 2021, when I finally decided to watch them by renting them at Amazon Prime. So, of course, the franchise started in 2003 with a movie, of course, which is The Curse of the Black Pearl, which is definitely, in my opinion, a phenomenal start to the franchise, which introduced us to lots of beloved fan-favourite characters, such as, of course, for example, Captain Jack Sparrow, who is easily my favourite role of all time from the absolute legend Johnny Depp, and definitely, in my opinion, the best Disney live-action character of all time, in my opinion, and just an absolutely amazing start. Just how you start a franchise. Why is it that we haven't had these franchise starters like this in a very long time? Because, why is that? This film is phenomenal. And then after that, of course, it got a sequel, which, of course, was 2006's Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Man's Chest, which is my personal favourite of a franchise. This is, in my opinion, one of the best sequels ever made. Not just, in my opinion, the best in the franchise, but actually, in my opinion, one of the best sequels ever. I think this film is absolutely phenomenal from start to finish. And one reason why I'd say this franchise is better in Old than New is also, for me, the CGI too. Because, just like I did on my review for the film, I've got to give tons and tons of praise to this film's visual effects department, because the CGI for this film holds up phenomenally to this day. This film is from 2006, and the CGI still looks amazing to this day. You wouldn't have guessed it was that old because how great it looks. Especially with CGI for Davy Jones and his crew. And Davy Jones is also one of my favourite villains in the franchise. Just a great, phenomenal villain right there. Then after that, of course, a year later, we then got a third film, of course, which was Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, which is also, as well, a great film like the first two. And as far as I'm concerned, it's the end of the franchise. This is just how you wrap up a trilogy, with an epic final battle and wrapping up loose ends. This is just how you do it. And I personally think this film gave an amazing closure to the franchise, absolutely. I did not see any signs of sequel baiting whatsoever with the end of this film. To me, this is the end. And so I'd say that the franchise is better in the Old than the New, mainly because of this great trilogy, which introduces us to beloved fan-favourite characters, and also as well to great villains as well, and also great writing as well, I must say too, because people were worried this film wasn't going to be good due to, of course, the failure of a film based on the Haunted Mansion ride, which I've not seen. I've been on the ride, but I've not seen the film, but I didn't hear good things about it, so maybe I dodged a bullet. But people were worried the first one wouldn't be good, but thankfully, of course, I love the first movie. I thought it was phenomenal, and of course, many fans do, of course, too. So, and also, as well, as I've also said, phenomenal CGI, which is definitely, in my opinion, miles better than a lot of CGI we get nowadays. Because one issue I have with films which are made in this recent times is that the CGI is very appalling. I don't know why that is. I don't know why CGI is getting worse and worse all the time. I just think it's ridiculous. I still can't believe these films are so old and they look so much better than what we get today. Even with the first film, CGI is much better than what we get today. And that film is over 2 decades old. That's how ridiculous it is. And not to mention, as well, how you actually wrap up a story too. Because At World's End is just how you wrap up a trilogy and how you tie up loose ends. Because it feels like these days, they just don't want franchises to end, which is very annoying. But sadly, despite At World's End to me being the end of a franchise, in my canon, the end of a franchise, unfortunately, we did sadly get 2 sequels. The first of which being, of course, On Stranger Tides, which I personally think is just okay at best, really. I mean, it's not as good as a trilogy, in my opinion, definitely not, but it's thankfully nowhere near as insufferable as what came next, which is a massive relief at least. Because Jack Sparrow is still thankfully the likable character we all know and love in the film, but I, of course, didn't like how it massacred Barbossa at the start of the film by making him lose a leg and also a black pearl to a bottle. That, in my opinion, was stupid. I also did not like the character of Angelica. She was, in my opinion, very annoying. And one thing this film also got wrong was also, of course, the addition of pointless subplots. And I'm talking, of course, about the dumb subplot involving the mermaid romance with one of the pirates. That, in my opinion, was pure cringe and completely irrelevant to the story. You could have cut out the film and it would have changed nothing. And one of the reasons why I'd say that all films are better is also because of better villains too, because personally I am not a fan of the villain Blackbeard, because while I love Ian McShane as an actor, I personally found his character Blackbeard to be very generic and boring. Like, just a villain that I didn't care about whatsoever. Like, I prefer Ian McShane much better in other roles, but sadly Blackbeard is one of my least favourite roles of his, which is a massive shame. Like, he could have done much better direction to her, in my opinion. And it's disappointing too, because Bobby is actually based on a real-life pirate too, so he could have actually executed it a lot better, but they didn't, which really sucked. Because he was just so one-dimensional and boring, in my opinion, just generic, and a villain I couldn't care less about. But unfortunately, though, of course, On Stranger Tides wasn't the worst to come for a franchise. It was a film that came next, of course, in 2017, which is what I like to call the year from hell for films, because lots of terrible films came out in that year. And this film is definitely no exception, being, of course, Dead Men Tell No Tales, which I've already done a trash talk for, guys. If you want to hear me rage about that film, then please go check out my trash talk of it. But I absolutely despise that film, and the more I look back at it, the more I hate it. And of course, on my rewatch of it for the trash talk, in my opinion, there was nothing redeemable about the film. Nothing was good about it, in my opinion. Because one thing it did, which in my opinion was horrible, was it massacred Jack Sparrow, made him very unlikable. They basically gave him the same cliche they did to Luke Skywalker in the Disney Wars sequel Trashology, where it made him really unlikable and nothing like the character we all know and love. But he's a Jack Sparrow. And speaking of that, they also was what did that cliche to Elizabeth Swann, because just like in The Force Awakens, she doesn't appear in the film until the end, and she has no dialogue. So that was just like what we did to Luke at the end of The Force Awakens, despite, of course, Mark Hamill being billed second in the cast, and Keira Knightley also putting in the trailers for the film just to get an audience into the cinemas to watch it, which in my opinion was a bad tactic, because like, why would you mislead the audience like that? That's just stupid, really stupid. And Jack wasn't the only character massacred, because they also massacred Will as well, which I also did not like. They didn't make him very unlikable to his own son, who was also, in my opinion, a brat in this film. I couldn't understand Henry Turner. Not to mention, you don't even call him first, he's called Will Turner Jr. And not only was bad things, but also as well, the worst villain in the franchise being Salazar. Like, Blackbeard I could take it just about, but I thought he was not as bad as Salazar, because Salazar, in my opinion, was atrocious. Definitely, in my opinion, the absolute worst villain in the franchise. While I love Javier Bardem as an actor, I unfortunately regard Salazar as the worst villain in the franchise, because I thought he was terrible, in my opinion, just an absolute joke compared to the great villains in the trilogy. And also, as well, killing off Barbossa was also a dumb move, because one of the trilogy also got right compared to the sequels is it killed off characters in a much better executed way than, of course, this fifth film did, in my opinion. Like, it executed so much better, and that's why, of course, they were impactful, whereas the ones in this film just made me really angry, especially Barbossa's, because after being resurrected, he didn't deserve to die again. No, like, come on, he didn't deserve that. So, as far as I'm concerned, the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise is unfortunately dead, and there has been, of course, loads and loads of talks about a next film being made, but I couldn't care less about it. So if they, of course, have to end it, then they have to, in my opinion, because, like, in my opinion, there's no going back for this franchise. Nothing can save it. The franchise is more dead than ever. The fifth film, of course, ended on dumb sequel baiting, where it was, of course, showing the return of Davy Jones, which was a dumb move because it makes the real trilogy completely and utterly pointless, which made me very angry. So, my best option, guys, when it comes to a futurist franchise, is just end it already. Because it's not going to be saved, it's not going to be improved whatsoever, it's just going to get worse and worse. So, I will not be watching any more Pirates of the Caribbean films. I will stick to the great trilogy that I have here on Blu-ray, just this trilogy alone. And I'm not going to be watching any more else in the franchise, no chance. I'll probably play some of the old video games too. I've already got Lego Pirates of the Caribbean on PS3, so I'll definitely play that. Might get some other games too as well, which are good, which I've heard about too as well one day. But as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to films, there can only be a trilogy to me. Just a trilogy alone, and that's it. No more, no less. So guys, this is me doing the next episode of Old is Better Than New, while saying why, in my opinion, Pirates of the Caribbean was much better in old than the new. So, you know the drill, guys. Be sure to give this video a like. Also, be sure to vote in the comments what you guys think of Pirates of the Caribbean being Old is Better Than New franchise. Also, be sure to join Team Plan by pressing subscribe and who's coming in the future. And Pirates Life for me, savvy.